Hi all my beautiful friends. So today's video, I wanted to do something new and I think I'm going to try to do it a little more often. It's something I've always kind of wanted to do on my channel, and that's just kind of talk about topics that might help other people, maybe things that I've experienced in my life that I thought I could share, that maybe be relatable. I've always wanted to do something like this. I've kind of thought about doing a podcast, but I know how hard it is to kind of delve into that world. I know it's not easy, but I've always wanted to in some way help either teenagers or young adults or older adults with topics. And I was going to start out light today, and I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about the pros and cons of being in the plus size community right now, especially in 2022 and 2021, and how progressive it's become. But I also want to talk about topics that I've experienced in my life. I don't want anyone to be offended, but when I was much younger, literally there was a black woman in my life that saved my life, and I only emphasize that she was of a different color than me because it just was so impactful for me at the time, and it has made me respect black women very, very much as I grew older, because she literally was such an outlet for me when I was going through something very, very traumatic, I guess you could say. I don't like even saying that word, but I've had that experience, and I think it would be something positive to share on here, but I'm not sure if I'm ready, and I'm not really sure what the feedback on that would be. Just my experience with a lot of things, being married very, very young, and having a baby young, and buying a home young, and just a lot of things that I've been through in my life, and I'll see how this kind of goes. And I really want to touch on the topic of maybe like being in an abusive relationship as a teenager, because I had something like that happen to me, where the person actually ended up doing time in prison. And I think that could help, especially young adults. I try to communicate with my daughters, my daughter and my two younger sisters, so much. I mean, I don't like telling them too much about my life yet, because I feel like, my older sisters, yes, but my daughter's still quite young. But I try to communicate and leave that line of communication open about things that I've experienced, so she knows there's always an outlet and help, and I don't want her to ever go to an outside source when she can get help from her mom and her dad. I mean, I'm glad she has outlets such as school counselors, friends, grandparents, but I want us to be her front line and right there and to help her. And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't have that, unfortunately. They don't have that person who they trust or communicate with, or they're like frontline person that's cheering them on at all times, no matter what they do wrong. Like, I try never to chastise my child in front of anybody. I try to do it in private. I don't like embarrassing my daughter. I understand there's certain times where you just have to stop them, but I will never let somebody think they got one over on us, and I will make sure that in the privacy of our home, we take care of whatever the issues are, and we do it properly and not out of anger. So I thought that I could start touching on topics that might help people, and then in the future, if anybody would like me to talk about things, I certainly will. Now, if this doesn't go over well, that's fine. I just have always wanted to do something like this, and I thought today we'd do something a little lighter, but not so much lighter, and kind of talk about like the pros and cons of being in the plus community as of right now. Now, I want to touch on one thing. I'm sorry there's such a glare on my glasses. I'm trying to figure out this lighting situation. If anybody can help me and figure out how I can still wear my glasses and film, it would be greatly appreciated. It's too hard for me to not be able to see. It gives me a little bit of anxiety around not seeing. So that's why I always try to wear my glasses in the video. I'm trying to move to see, like, if I'm like this, you can see. If I'm like this, you can see the lighting. So just bear with me, and if anyone knows, let me know down below. So like I said, today's topic is going to be kind of like the pros and cons of being in this community as of right now. So when I was growing up, my weight always fluctuated. When I started to really notice weight gain, I was about 8 years old, and I had to go on steroids for asthma. I had childhood asthma. Back then, they treated everything with heavy-duty steroids, every medication, inhaler. They still may, I don't know. But I know, as my experience growing up, everything was treated with some type of steroid inhaler, a nebulizer treatment, steroids. Intravenous steroids when I had really bad ones and ended up in the hospital. So I gained weight. I got that giant moon face growing up. I was very chubby in the face. And then around 8th grade, as soon as I was weaned off of a lot of the medications, my weight dropped and I became about mid-size. So right entering high school, I was about 165 to 180 pounds. I would fluctuate in between that. So I was never thin, but I was never like a extremely bigger person. But then right around the end of 9th grade going into my 10th grade year, I had a lot of like really troubling things happen, and I end up getting extremely thin. I was down to about 125 pounds. I looked really kind of strange because I had always been a curvier person, so I was very, very thin. I just didn't look good. And then after I had my daughter in 2006, I just went berserk and I gained so much weight. At my highest, I was about 305, and I've lost roughly, I'm about 210 when I went to the doctors because I had lost quite a bit of weight. I still have a lot of weight to lose, so I've lost roughly 90 to 100 pounds. It just depends on, my weight always fluctuates. But back then in 2006, when I was graduating high school and I was pregnant with my daughter, even before then, 2005, 4, 3, there were no plus size models or plus size role models. It was frowned upon to be plus size. There were no outlets for women and girls like us. Not like you see now. So I definitely will say, like, I'm not going to say, oh, this is a pro, this is a con. I'm just going to kind of touch on topics like I feel. So definitely that's something that I appreciate more now, is there are so many more examples of plus size. And I'm not saying like you're perfect model plus size that are curvy and they don't have stretch marks, they don't have cellulite, they don't have hanging skin, they don't have like belly aprons. I'm talking about there are actual examples of real plus size. And I'm not saying that that isn't beautiful. Every type is beautiful, but there comes a lot of risks with being overweight as well. And I understand that. And that is definitely a con about being overweight, is you are at high risk for a lot of health issues. And I'm not going to pretend like it's not the truth. I'm on the border of where my sugar is constantly in between. I'm never high enough to be actually diabetic, and I'm never like normal enough where they don't worry. I'm always like that pre-diabetic thing. Plus it runs in the family. It is genetic, but I know that I can prevent it by losing weight. Are there things that are preventing me from losing weight? Absolutely. But mostly myself. It's me in the way of myself. I always get in the way of myself. I enjoy eating. I enjoy eating things that aren't good for me. And I know these are things that I could prevent and get healthy. I've done it before. I've done it in the past where I ate well, I exercised, and I felt great, and I saw results. I lost 17 pounds last year when I did it. Sometimes I get in these weird ruts. But back to the topic of role models. There are so many women out there that are showing us, and men, that are showing us, I should say people, that are showing us it's okay to be plus size. For example, the clothing. When I would go shopping, I can remember being so discouraged. I hate shopping. I hated shopping. I felt stupid. I felt ugly. I felt overweight. There was nothing. So I always ended up wearing maternity clothes a lot of times, because they were some more modern than the plus size. So after I had my daughter, I was always in maternity clothes, but they looked like maternity clothes. They didn't look like plus size clothing. They always looked like I was in maternity clothes. So then I would end up just wearing t-shirts and sweatpants, and I always looked frumpy and unkept, and I just didn't look nice. That is one of the most amazing things now, is that Torrid, TJ Maxx even covers some plus size, but Torrid is one of the best. Boohoo has a inexpensive plus size line. I can't think of, even Walmart right now is carrying pretty decent sizes up to a 4 or 5X, which is incredible. But you can thrift now. You can find online boutiques for plus size women. I will list down below some of my favorite places. Old Navy has great plus size options. Forever 21 is like a hit or miss for me, because I feel like it's more of like a junior plus, not more like a woman's plus. But there are so many beautiful options, and they are accepting now that women can wear crop tops. It's not personally for me. I don't like the way they look on me, but I love seeing women wear things that make them feel personally okay. I like that they have high-waisted pants. I love that women can tuck. Like, I love to wear my pants high-waisted. I love sweatpants over a nice blouse, like a turtleneck, and then something over like a flannel. I love that look. I love that we are showing more shape. because I always looked heavier than I was, because I was always so afraid to show my shape. And it's accepted now. I just love it. I feel like the options for clothing, while they are some very, very expensive, they're worth it. The quality's good. You can just find so many cute, more modern pieces. Like this sweater, it's so cute. I thrifted this years ago. I love it. It's a nice baggy sweater. It's a men's sweater. I just picked it up at a thrift store for $8, and I have today this with a pair of leggings. With a pair of leggings, and I look nice and I look put together. I never feel frumpy. Now, I have days where I just don't care and I throw on pajama pants and a t-shirt and run around my house, and I'm happy with that, but I have options. I have dresses that I can wear, and I love it. And I'm so thrilled with the plus size community as far as clothing, and having people to show us that it is okay to be plus size, role models that are real, true plus size people. Another thing that I had to learn very quickly growing up with fluctuating weight is that you have to have a thicker skin. So I think it prepares you a little bit better in the real world, because people do not like that you're plus size. They're overweight, fat, whatever you want to say. I feel like fat shouldn't be a bad word, because I am fat. That's just how it is. I mean, my husband gets upset when I say it, but I tell him all the time, it's not a bad word. It's just what I am. And if you love the way I look, that's all that matters. You definitely need a thick skin. People are going to say things. People are not going to like the fact that you're overweight. They're going to call you chubby, which to me, chubby, I don't know why that word bothers me more than anything. I know I shouldn't let it, but it's like some people can't stand the word fat or obese. For some reason, I would rather be called those words than chubby. It just like, maybe because it kind of like drove me nuts as a kid. I was always like the chubbier kid. I just can't stand that word. But you definitely develop more thicker skin. You have to kind of just, especially growing up before. I'm hoping the new generations won't have to, because they see that plus size people are more accepted now, or are starting to be. And I hope so in the future that it will be. And we don't fixate so much on our weight. It's just hard not to. Now, I know for me, a lot of times I can get fixated on not being the right type of plus size. I feel like sometimes, unfortunately, it becomes a fetish or fetishized. I don't know how to really say that word. And you don't know if someone really loves you for you, or if it's the fact that right now so many people are like obsessed with overweight people, but they don't want to take all the good with the bad. You see something on TV, and that's not the reality of it. The reality is that there is a stigma around smelling bad as a plus size person, when most of us make sure we take extra care not to have odor. There's a stigma about, or we have rashes. We get rashes between our legs from rubbing. Because there's folds and stuff bacteria from being overweight and skin laying over it, you can get yeast infections. It's just part of being plus size. But like, you see one side of it, and people think that that's all there is to being plus size, and it's not. And it becomes a fetish, like a fetish is for other things, like little people or feet, or really, really thin women. It's like, don't categorize all these people into one thing, because there's so many more things about us. I think it's funny. I love seeing the TikToks. Like the other day, I saw a woman who was like, do you really want plus size women? And she flips back and puts her legs in the air to show that this is what the reality is. And I sent it to my husband, and he loved it. He thought it was so hilarious. But like I said, even being intimate with plus size women, you're going to feel roles and things that might not be there. And there's more of us there, and there's a lot to hold on to. But like I said, these are things that people don't necessarily realize when they want to, like I said, fetishize plus size women or men. And I know there is many people out there that really truly enjoy the company of a bigger woman, and then you have people who make them feel guilty for it, which is very tragic, and I will never understand it. Now, luckily, I've never felt that way being in a like, my husband's smaller than I am, not by much. He's gained so much weight as he's gotten older, and I keep telling him it isn't as funny as it's cracked out to be. I mean, he looks wonderful. He looks much more filled out, much more like a man now, being a little heavier. But I'm like, before he was a lot smaller than me, quite a bit, like, I don't know, I'm gonna say like 40 pounds, 50 pounds smaller than me. We have never had people kind of like look at us differently that I've ever noticed, but I know there are some beautiful, beautiful plus size women with men that are physically fit, that men and women ask him, like, what are you doing with her? I mean, why wouldn't he be? Maybe there is something very special about her. Maybe she takes really good care of him. Maybe she fills needs that other people couldn't, whether it's intimacy, and there's all kinds of intimacy, not just sex, whether it is being a 50-50 financial partner. Maybe she cooks well, maybe he feels supported in things that he does. There are a whole lot of reasons other than physically that someone might want to be with a plus size person. And I feel like it just is tragic when people will say, why are you with so and so? I feel like mixed weight couples are the norm. It's just someone's going to be bigger in the relationship, and when it's the woman, it always feels like there's a stigma around it, which is a shame, and I hope someday really does change, because there are a lot of stunning plus size women and men. Now this kind of goes along with being like thick-skinned. I can remember, I shouldn't even talk about this because it's so embarrassing. When I was at my highest weight, I went to a restaurant and I was able to fit in the booth, but barely. And my breast sat on top of the table. I was so uncomfortable, so embarrassed. And I'm not going to lie, obviously I was never diagnosed with like agoraphobia, so I am not taking from that community and the people that do truly have it. But there were probably about 6 years in my life where I did not leave the house. That really embarrassed me. I was angry with myself for allowing myself to get so heavy. Maybe not 6 years, maybe more like 4 years. Since I gave birth at 19, and then my weight really got its highest when I was about 21 or 22, and then I started to really lose weight around 27. So about 4 or 5 years, I did not leave the house unless I absolutely had no choice. I didn't go to a restaurant. I can remember being about 27 or 28, and my husband, he, would get upset when we couldn't go out to restaurants, and beg me, and I finally went, and now it's something we really enjoy, but for years I wouldn't, because I had such a fear around fitting in booths, fitting on airplane seats. I can remember being so heavy, and we were flying to Disney for like 3 days, and I had such a fear that I couldn't fit the seatbelt, and of course I couldn't. I was somehow able to wiggle it on, but it's still such an embarrassing thing for you, or for me. Fitting on rides at Disney, I was always concerned about, so I missed out on so many things. But nowadays there are much more accommodating, people are much more accommodating. You can get a seatbelt extender if you need to. I believe you can even buy them off of Amazon, and if I can find them, I will link them for you below. Let me think here. You can find seatbelt extenders for your car. And you can always ask, say, can I have a table instead of a booth? If you really enjoy going out and you don't think you can fit in a booth, always ask for a table. They're pretty accommodating, and usually they're more willing to sit you in a booth or a table, because everybody wants to sit in a booth. But as I started losing weight, I started gaining a little more confidence back, and I started to leave the house, and now I go all over the place. Obviously, I'm always out with my daughter, but like the idea of whether I had to worry about if there were stairs or if I could fit into a seat or there was going to be room for me had become such a stressor in my life that I became almost like a recluse, and I did nothing for years, and I feel like I wasted a lot of time in my life. I feel like I had a lot of wasted time, and that's why I don't like to waste time now. It's such an anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety around, I have a lot of anxiety around wasting time, because I feel like I wasted a lot of time in my 20s, but I've noticed that my 30s have been just a lot more fun, in the sense that I just don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care if people don't like the way I do my hair or my makeup or my clothing, because that I get judged on a lot. Believe it or not, a lot of people are cruel to me about my makeup and my hair. I get left out about a lot of things, and I know there's a lot of women that don't like it. They don't want to wear makeup. They are sports moms, or they're on-the-go moms, or they have multiple children and they can't do it, but I don't judge them for not wearing makeup. And it's not all the time. Most people just couldn't give a shit less, just like I don't give a shit. But I have had quite a few women not very nice when they see that I wear makeup and I do my nails and hair, and I understand it, and we just move on from the situation, and they're just not for me in my life. And then the women that love it and want to ask me questions, I love telling them more and more about, how I do my makeup and hair and where I find my clothes. I love sharing that with them. So like I said, being plus size, I am in no way like condemning it or for it. If you live a healthy lifestyle and you're still plus size, that is wonderful. I'm not always the healthiest, nor am I always the unhealthiest. It just depends. I kind of go back and forth with it. Some days I eat really well. Some days I eat like hell. Like last night I roasted a whole tray of veggies. We had roasted vegetables and we had a little bit of sausage on the side, and it was really good. And then some nights I eat pizza. So it's just like finding that balance about being plus size and not feeling judged for it and not beating yourself up if you have a bad day. I definitely have suffered from, I've never been diagnosed with binge eating, but I know that I have a horrible habit of restricting what I eat and then going crazy. And my biggest downfall is definitely snacking, especially in the evenings. That's why I used to not go to bed at the same time as my husband, because I knew once he was out of the room, I felt comfortable eating things that I shouldn't. So a way of avoiding that is going to bed at the same time and not letting myself do that, because when he's not around, I feel more comfortable. Not that he's ever judged me, it's more of a personal thing. Even if my daughter, I would wait for her to go to bed, and then I would just continue to eat and watch TV. And by the time I was done, I was so sick the next morning. And it was something that I realized that if I took myself out of the situation, if I go to bed early, eat a later dinner, something more healthy, and if I really did need something for bed, try to pick healthier or less heavy options, because I was eating the most insane things when I was at my heaviest weight. I don't even know how I physically did it sometimes, but like you get into a frenzy and you just continue to eat, and it becomes, and then you feel guilty after, I should say. And the time it feels good and you feel better, and then there's such awful guilt and you feel so physically sick. So it's just like finding a healthy balance of being plus size, but also trying to be happy with yourself and get healthy. So the last thing I want to kind of touch on is acceptance. I feel like we need to just accept people for who they are and stop focusing so much on appearances, outwardly appearances. I think that we need to be more fixated on innard and what people look like on the inside, if someone's a good person, because you just don't know what their situation is. Everything is situational. We don't know what people go home to at night. I am very guilty of doing that, looking at people and thinking like they must have so much money, or I fixate that on a lot, like judging people about their money or what they, seem like on the outside. Like recently, I'm not going to say what the whole situation was, but I met an older couple and my daughter became friends with their daughter. I thought they lived like a very nice life. I thought they were just your typical suburban household. The dad is a chemist. I'm not really sure what the mother does. I feel like she's a teacher, but I'm not positive. Their daughter is so sweet, but come to find out they have a lot of problems at home. And I was very shocked. And that's why I'm working on not judging books by its covers. I have met many people that live in big, big houses. For example, someone that is friends, they have a big house. They have every material item you can think of, but they are so unhappy in their private life that it's pathetic. Like destroying their life to keep up an image that is so unrealistic in life that it makes me sick. I would rather live the life that I do and live within my means. And I have very recently realized living outside of your means is so unrealistic and stupid, and to stop buying things that you don't need. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. And if I really want something, I try to save for it. But we need to stop judging people by their outwardly appearances and judge them from what's within. I think it's amazing that in the year 2022, we have so many people that are examples of what real plus size people are. Health journeys are amazing to watch. I love seeing people get healthy and lose weight. I love that there are so many options out there, whether you need to have surgery for your health. I don't judge anybody if you have gastric bypass or lap band surgery or whatever surgeries are out there for weight loss. Or if you need to take medication, or if you just can't lose weight because you have a thyroid issue. I always just let people be who they are. I am really working on judgment. That is something that I gossiping and judgment on people, and that is a big no-no. So you just never know where people are coming from. So I thought this would help somebody. I just wanted to touch briefly on it, just some of the most, the worst and the best of being plus size. I know there are millions of more things. I would love you to leave down below anything that you got out of this, or anything you would like to discuss, or any topics you would like me to talk on. If this goes well, I might start talking more about some experiences that I've had in my life, because I feel like I definitely have had some strange experiences. I don't want to sit here and say, because I've learned from most of it and I've grown from it, and I never live in the past. I try never to allow these things to affect me, but sometimes they creep up and you just can't stop them from bothering you. And I've had a lot of things. I was brought up by a single mother. She didn't have much money. She had a drug and alcohol problem my whole life. My father had a drug problem. So that was a big part of my childhood. My mother was very absent. She worked a lot, so she was very emotionally stunted, in my opinion. So her and I never really reconciled, and it's unfortunate because she passed away. So I could also address something like that. I could talk about, like I said, being in an abusive relationship at 14. I feel like I was, it's just a really long story and very crazy what ended up happening. I thought I was in a relationship with somebody much younger, and he ended up being in his 20s, and he lied to my family and myself. And by the time we found out a lot of this, we were just so in too deep with the whole situation. It was horrible. So I feel like that is something that needs to be much more talked about, especially in schools, is being in abusive relationships when you are a teenager, because I don't think you realize that you can be. Just because you're young doesn't mean there isn't abuse there. A lot of things I can talk about. I ended up having to be court ordered to the CARA program, which is for rape and abuse victims, and that's where I met that woman that I was talking about in the beginning that saved my life. And at the time, hindsight's 2020, I never realized she also must have been a victim herself, because the counselors all there had to have experienced some type of trauma like that. And I used to test her, and I used to really give that woman a run for her money, and she just always stuck by me and kind of just put me in my places, which is what I needed at the time. So I think I'm going to start talking on these topics and maybe put one video out a week and see if I can reach people and help them. So if this was interesting to you, or if this helped you out in any way, or if you just enjoyed listening, I hope you stick around and subscribe. And I would love to have you stick around and listen to more videos. If you have any suggestions or comments down below, definitely feel free to leave this. This is going to be something separate than my usual videos, because I usually like to keep it light and have fun and do, fashion or home decor or makeup. But I think I really want to hit on these topics because they are so important. I know we have such a big true crime where we hit on those topics, and being plus size is often talked about, but I feel like there are much more bigger topics that need to be addressed as well, and I would love to talk to you about them. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Well, I hope you all stick around and subscribe, and I will see all of my beautiful friends in the next video. Bye, guys.